Hello, my name is Trobradovic. I'm FLM at SDT Ultrasound Solutions, and I carefully chose a topic for today. Obviously, I'm coming from technology side. I'm coming from condition monitoring. But today I want to talk about something on a completely different side of the spectrum. I want to talk about reliability improvement as a whole. And I want to start with a question, and probably you will notice I will not offer many answers in this presentation. I will probably talk more about questions, and I see a huge value in asking the proper questions. So my first question will be, is it an engineering job? Is it a job for engineers and exclusively engineers to improve reliability? So let's make a small game and mimic a typical conversation that we all of us have heard so many times. So location is industry. The task is let's improve reliability. And I'm sure you can imagine two responsible guys talking about following topics. Who do we have to take care of this? So the task is quite clear. We have to improve reliability. So somebody has to do it, obviously. So who do we have to take care of this? Who's available? Engineers. Okay. So they'll do that. And that's a decision. End of discussion, end of story. But the wise men always ask questions and they say, will that be enough? Well, the question answered with a question says, do you have anyone else? Well, no. That's all we have. Okay, then it will be enough. And I'm sure each of you heard this story so many times, and I'm sure you are absolutely aware of the results. So let's switch to a completely different topic, to other side of the spectrum from technology, and let's talk about what else is needed to improve reliability. Mr. Mark Twain said this many years ago, and many after him as well, to a man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. We use this saying so many times in our lives, but the question is, are we using it in the right moments and at the moments when it actually counts? So just a little bit of history and something that you are all aware of, but maybe it gives a different perspective. Engineers design smartphones. We all use them today, absolutely. But they did not build a culture of communication. Culture of communication is something completely different, and the smartphone enhanced it, obviously, but it didn't create it. Engineers, civil engineers, build beautiful buildings all around the world, but they did not create communities. To have a community, it takes much more than just beautiful buildings. Even Mr. Gutenberg, he designed printing machine, revolution. But he never wrote the poetry that was printed on that machine. So all these engineering solutions were part of the story, not the whole story. Reliability, if we can translate it in different terms, means engineering solutions developed in proper environment. So we will find a technology, we will find a technological solution, we'll set up the set of rules, we'll set up the system, we'll set up the procedures, but we need to develop it in proper environment. And that environment is culture. In our case, it's reliability culture. So if you put it on a scale, no matter how many of you in the audience are coming from the technology side of the spectrum, and I believe many of you, I come from the same spectrum, but engineering and culture create a perfect balance. We cannot say that engineering is more important or culture is more important. They work together in a harmony, and they create a perfect balance with the same level of importance. So reliability culture, just try to define it a little bit, just like any other sociological phenomenon that we call culture, has four elements: values, beliefs, behavior, and rituals. So you can see four elements that you can recognize in so many areas, really, from the culture to industry to small communities to society in general. You can even see this in a football fans. So it goes to every corner of our life. Just remember these four elements. We'll talk about them quite a lot. So when you put these four elements around people, or you put people within these four elements, you have people who share the same values, believe in common goal, behave accordingly, and perform harmonically. When a group of people, it doesn't matter how many of them, when a group of people fit into this sentence, they create reliability culture. And yes, I'm talking about industry. This can sound quite strange because we should be talking about industry, we should be talking about improvement of reliability, higher MTBF, discussing RCA. That's all fine. We have to discuss that. But also this needs to be discussed. We need to create reliability culture. So definitely we need to have people who share same values, they believe in the same goal and they understand it, they behave accordingly to the values and beliefs, and at the end of the day, to orchestrate them, they need to perform harmonically. Also, when you put a different perspective on this, you will see a fine thread connecting all these people and all four elements of culture. You can describe those people as people who care about the company. Not just employee in a very simple and raw and trivial meaning of that word, but somebody who actually cares about a company. The care about the company, the care about the organization you belong to can be automatically. Okay, we have seen that many times, that you just have this kind of people, or it can be created because environment shapes our behavior. Because when you join the team and then you see everybody behaves this way and everybody cares, so it's quite obvious that you will start caring with time, or you will simply leave the team. So people who care about the company is something that is on the other side of the scale that balance technology. Culture is built from top to bottom. Culture needs to be built. Every system needs to be built. It doesn't happen by itself. If you want a good culture, if you want a good system, you have to build it yourself. So it's built from top to bottom. If it's not built, some kind of culture will self-create. It will basically auto-generate. And normally it will be a bad way. And we don't want that. So we need to build the right way. And that means that the first step, if we talk about top to bottom, is implementing values. The values need to be clear to everyone in the organization, from the top management down to the person at the gate and everyone in between. Everybody needs to understand values that this organization believes in. Then all the goals needs to be translated clearly. That means that every organization has a certain goal. And that goal is not necessarily and automatically understood by everyone in the organization. On the contrary, usually we have examples that members of the organization don't really understand the goals of the organization. They know the job they need to do. They function in this micro world of their working station or the task or the project, but not necessarily completely understanding the goals. If you want to test this, you can just go down to the plant floor and ask a simple operator a simple question. What's your role in reliability improvement? How do you contribute? What are you doing for our goals? You will usually have quite strange questions, and one of them is, what goals? So are the goals translated clearly to everyone? Because they are not the same at the same level, and they need to be translated. Now, set up expectations in behavior. It's easier said than done, of course, but we need to set up how do we expect the members of the certain factory, organization, company, team, how do we expect you to behave? And that behavior needs to become a standard to everyone. And then we will define rituals or procedures or one best way to do things. That means that we will create this atmosphere where we clearly know how this task needs to be done. This is the ritual. In industry, it's called standard operating procedure. This is how we do things. As you can see, it's only part of the building culture. We definitely need to start from top to bottom. Values, goals, expectations, and then we go down to the rituals. Unfortunately, culture can be destroyed from all directions, top to bottom, bottom to top. So just by building it from top to bottom, we are not safe that it will not be destroyed from bottom to top. That means that you can have people and team members that don't share your values. They don't believe in your values. They don't see those values as important. And that needs to be addressed. Not understanding goals. This is usually a mistake that comes from top to the bottom. Translating the goals in sometimes financial, sometimes uptime, sometimes less wear, less friction, higher forces, lower amplitudes. Not everyone understands everything. In every typical organization, we have economists, lawyers, mechanical engineers, sometimes even medical team. So let's stop for a moment and translate the goals to everyone in his own language that he clearly understands. So yes, you can tell me that the goal is to win the championship in football, but what do you expect me to do? What is my goal? What do you set up as my goal from my perspective? Then you can have unacceptable behavior, and this is what we have so often because people are individuals. They have different talents, they have different interests, they have different mentality, they have different personalities, and very often we can have unacceptable behavior. Unacceptable behavior in a restaurant during the lunch, being rude and not behaving nicely. I'm not talking about that. That's something that team takes care about itself. I'm talking about behavior that put organization, company, other people, assets in danger. Because if somebody doesn't share the value and doesn't understand the goals, the result will obviously be unacceptable behavior, which is dangerous for everyone around that person. And then we have finally not respecting rituals. So we have one best way to do things. So we install the bearing that way. We align the machine that way. We install the valves that way. And there is always somebody who says, no, I'll do it differently. I have 5 zillion years of experience and I know how to do it differently. Okay, it can even be good. But then it needs to be, the existing ritual needs to be improved. Not just disrespecting it, because that leads to chaos. Obviously, when you see all I mentioned, it's all about people. We are not even talking about machines, we're not talking about technology. And when we discuss people and when we have to manage people and build culture in a company, there are several tasks we need to do. So first of all, we need to communicate values and beliefs. So we need to step in front of everyone, not just sending a circular message, but we have to filter this down to every person in organization and communicate values and beliefs. What are the values of this organization or company or factory? And what are our beliefs that we need to do to achieve our goals and respect our values? Then translating the goals to each member of the organization and setting up the clear boundaries. So you can do this, you can variate minus that and plus that, but that's it. Those are your boundaries. And the goals are clearly translated to everyone. That's our second task. Motivating people to improve. Whatever organization you look at, it makes a huge difference if improvement comes from 2 or 3 or 5 people who are member of the improvement team, or that improvement comes from 5,000 people or entire team of the company. It's a huge difference. So we need to motivate people to improve. We need to give them incentive, and their voice needs to be heard. So that means that we need to create that need to improve every aspect of operation. And that needs to come from every individual. I'm not saying that every idea will be a blockbuster and everything will be fantastic from today on. But the sum of all these ideas and small improvements at a certain tasks will be fantastic. And even if they are not good, and even if they are not doable, they cannot be executed, getting these improvement ideas are really fantastic. Having people who are ready to learn is part of the culture. Harmonizing different personalities, that's also a task. And it's quite a difficult task. I'm sure all of you have this experience from every company you ever worked, that you had, this guy is heavy, this guy is very rude, I don't like this guy, he doesn't like me also. And we have all different personalities. Don't forget, when we come to work, we are person. We are not robots. So that means we are selling our time to the company. 8 hours, 10 hours a day, doesn't matter how much. But we still have our personality. And that can be a very nice personality, but not necessarily. It can be very bad personality. But within the organization, there must be an atmosphere. There must be a culture where we harmonize all these different personalities, walking toward the same goal, following the same values, same beliefs, and same behavior. It's not an easy job, definitely. So if you look at these 4 tasks, and I can tell you there is more than 20 tasks. This is only something I have time today to discuss. Only 4 of this. Forget about 16 others. What kind of skills are needed? So imagine somebody gives you a task that you need to improve reliability, and you have all the technology in the world. You have everything from vibration, noise analysis, ultrasound, alignment, balancing, motor current analysis. You have all technologies in the world. You had all the trainings in the world, but still you need to improve. So we all know that technology is never delivering a full benefit unless there is a culture where that technology works. So what skills are needed to fulfill this task, these 4 elements of the task? So from my perspective, and this is just my idea, I'm sure you can throw in several more. You definitely need to understand human nature. So understanding human nature is absolutely the skill you need. Behaviorism as a science, understanding people's behavior and the reasons and consequences and root causes. Sociology in general, absolutely needed, because building the culture inside a company is actually building the sociological phenomenon. Psychology, absolutely. I have seen so many people drove completely crazy because they have fantastic engineering skills, but they are not always able to deal with people and different people. Motivational skills. Now, this is why you can see so many different football trainers, for instance. They all have quite similar technical football knowledge, but some of them are better, some of them are not so good. Motivational skills. So you need to motivate people. And that's not an easy task. Diplomacy, of course. When you have a group of people at different levels, with different profiles, with different personalities, with completely different interests, and you have to put them all together in harmony, at least for 8 to 10 hours per day, to respect the same values, believe in the same goals, behave in the same way, and follow the same rituals or standard operating procedures, you need to be very diplomatic. And that's a skill. You just don't get, you are not born with that. That's a skill. That's something we need to learn. So let me ask you a question, and I hope you will think about it for at least 5-6 seconds. When was the last time you met mechanical or electrical engineer trained in all those skills? Me neither. Never. Never, because those skills are not part of the engineering training. It's very little or none part of the mechanical engineering university, electrical, automation, or any else. That's not the point. This is why we have other people who are trained in that. So we have to accept the fact, and it's not insult to anyone, and it's not disrespectful, that engineers are trained in certain things, but they're not trained in all things. So next question, quite open, and this question usually needs to be asked to the management or people who are leading the reliability improvement. Don't you think it is frustrating and not really fair to ask engineer to do sociologist's job? Because that is exactly what some people are doing by asking them to lead culture building. Just imagine that you ask a sociologist or philosopher or painter to change a bearing or to design a bearing. Let's go a step further. It would be very frustrating. It would not be fair. Now, don't you think that you're actually pushing engineer into a failure? Because you are putting him in front of the problems of non-engineering nature. And you expect him to create those skills out of nowhere. Don't you think that the result is loss for everyone? Because poor culture means unsustainable reliability improvement. And that's a lose-lose combination for everyone within and around the company. Simply because we choose the wrong people to do the wrong things. So remember this: values, beliefs, behaviors, rituals. Rituals are procedures, standard operating procedures. And engineers are really excellent in doing this, creating standard operating procedures, analyzing them, and setting them into the practice. They're really excellent in doing this. But rituals or standard operating procedures, SOP, are outcome of the first three elements. So if you have values, if you have certain beliefs, if we all behave in the same way, the rituals are outcome, because this is what we do, because of all three elements. But rituals cannot create culture. Just because I go every Sunday on a football stadium to watch a football match doesn't mean I am part of that culture. Doesn't mean I believe in the same things. Simply because somebody is following the rules by installing the bearing or aligning the machine doesn't mean that he accepted reliability culture. So rituals are natural consequence of first three elements, but they do not create culture. When you implement standard operating procedures or ritual, there will be improvement, absolutely, no doubt about it, because you will put law and order into the chaos. But it will go for a certain time, and it will get you that far, but not very far, because it will not create culture. Culture creates rituals. It goes the other way around. If it's done that way, then it will be sustainable. Because we don't want people who must do something in this way. We want people who want to do something in this way, who understand why is it done in that way, and then we can expect that those people will always follow the rules, and they will come back to us and saying, I have an idea to make it better. Because they won't. They don't have to. Attempt to build a culture by writing strict procedures failed in the long run. Done many times, failed many times. It will do something for a short time, but not for a long run. So just ask yourself the same question we ask about safety always. And there's a famous question, whose problem is the safety? Take the mirror, look at the person in the mirror, and that's the person responsible for your safety. So why don't we use the same answer about reliability? Whose problem is reliability? Take the mirror, look at the mirror, and you will see the person who's responsible for reliability. And that's you. And that's absolutely everyone in the organization. Who needs to be involved? Everyone. What is the role of reliability department? To make reliability? To get it? To create it? Or actually to create a plan, strategy, and to steer it, to lead the positive change? But everybody else needs to actually create reliability. Now, I will put you a set of questions, of statements here, and I want to ask you, have you heard them? Because I bet you all heard them, just like me in every organization. And this is what people answer. People say, I will do it my way, not your way. There is a problem with this sentence because it's not my way. It's the organization way. It's part of our culture. I just installed this bearing. Defective part is not my problem. So you have a defective part, but that's not your problem. That's a problem of purchase department and definitely of spare parts room. Not my problem. I'll just install it. That's not mine. I just work here. This is the problem with the belonging, ownership. So yes, I work in this company, but that's not mine. I don't feel it like mine, which is completely wrong. Because your salary, your food for your family on your table comes from this organization when you work. So in a sense, it is yours. It is yours. You have to contribute. If you don't like it, leave. But you have to contribute. You have to look at it as yours. I don't agree with this change. We heard that a million times. I wish I had a penny for every time I heard about this. I don't agree with this change. I know better. Okay, great. Put it on paper. Create a project out of it. Explain it to me and everybody else in the organization. And let's put it as one of our goals. That's not my job. Everybody heard about that one. Everybody heard about that's not my job. Or my suggestions are never heard anyway. So sometimes you have people who get frustrated over time. They get burned out because they suggest and nobody listens. And then you have famous one, someone else will do it. I travel all around the world in many countries, many industries, and I always hear about this gentleman with the name someone else. He will do everything. And it's really fascinating because that guy is everywhere in all languages. Simeone Bonelsi, Semfonels, someone else, however you want to call him. But he has an evil twin brother, means nobody, no one else. No one else will do it if you don't do it. It's not my job to improve. Wrong. I don't understand why. And this is quite critical. So we want people to do something in a certain way, but we don't want to explain them why that makes any sense. So you can see all these questions have the same root cause. We didn't build a culture. We didn't build a proper culture. These people don't understand values. They don't share the same values, or They share the same values, but they don't have the same beliefs because the goals were not translated clearly, or they don't behave in the same way because it was not defined what behavior needs to be a result of our values and beliefs. And maybe they have a standard operating procedures, but that doesn't change much. That changed just some things. So ask engineer to deal with those questions that I just asked. Sit back, take your coffee, and watch the movie, and you will see the outcome. No success, no sustainable improvements, because all the questions I listed have nothing to do with engineering. They have nothing to do with technology. As a result, you will have no success, no improvements, at least not sustainable improvements. You will have frustrated and burned out engineers. We have seen that many times. Completely burned out. You have engineers who said, forget it, I'm not doing it. Then you have angry and dissatisfied team because the change is forced upon them in a wrong way. And at the end of the day, you have disappointed management. And let's not forget this. The responsibility of the management is to run the company, to run the organization through the profit and happy existence. So if we fail in all these elements before, we will have disappointed management. And it never ends well. The result of all this is loss for the company. Absolutely. It's a loss for the company, financial and in any other ways. Consequently, and this is something that we need to establish this connection with our people within the organization, it's a loss for the employees. If company is going down, I'm going down. You are going down. If company closes, you lose your job. If company works perfectly, your job is safe and secure, and your conditions will probably improve. So there must be clearly understood connection between well-being of the company and well-being of all the employees. Consequently, it's a loss for society. I mean, we all have seen the examples all around the world. When a factory closes, the society loses because people lose the job. Then families are in a very difficult situation. Then kids don't get a proper childhood and education. So it's a loss after loss. It's a chain reaction. So when a factory works successfully, even the street musicians are happy. Even they can feel it. Because everybody's okay, everybody is happy, everybody have a safe and secure income, and you can always spare a few coins for the street musician. And when the company goes down, employees lose the job, society loses the job, the street musician doesn't get a coin. So there must be established disconnection between things. No matter how good engineering performs, bad culture destroys it all. We know that culture eats technology for breakfast. So sustainable and self-propelled improvement is a must. We cannot create improvements by decree, by the decision and the order on a paper saying you must improve today. The improvement must be self-propelled within the boundaries defined by the organizations. But somehow, for some crazy reason, many still insist on building culture exclusively with engineering skills. You cannot measure human behavior in G, in millimeters per second, in newtons. It's something else. It's the soul. And we need to touch the soul of the organization and its members. By doing this and insisting on building the culture with engineering skill, is that maybe the reason why results in so many places in the world are only partial and rarely sustainable? Probably. Not because it doesn't work, because we are doing it wrongly. And that needs to change. So remember this from the beginning. Reliability means engineering and culture. Well balanced, equally important. Because reliability is not only machines. It's people as well. I hope this discussion from the other side of the spectrum, not technology, helped a little bit. I thank you for your time and see you in the next occasion.